spoke on it, harm reduction and my motivational interviewing, meeting that person where they're at. I'm not here to tell you to stop. What is it that you want? Where do we go from there? How do we get it? And meeting them at that lowest point and having compassion and empathy, the difference between sympathy and empathy is getting down in that seat with them, sitting in it with them, and being there side by side and allowing them to know that you're present with them. So when we talk about our emotions or our rejections or our issues with them, do we condone them? Do we point at them? Do we make them feel inferior? Do we do that, or do we just say, I'm just here to listen, how can I help? And once that starts going and they start to get a moment to really talk about what's going on, it allows them to start to think about things. And then you go on from there, what's next? And it's just, and unfortunately, treatment is not set up that way. We got 14 days, 28 days. So get out there and vote and talk about insurance issues on mental health, because we are getting cut every which way and we can't help, because it takes a lot of time and work to deal with people if we have wounds from childhood or even wounds that's a month old. 14 days is not enough days to start talking about problems. So really, harm reduction and motivational interviewing, meeting the people where they are, meeting that family member where they are, not putting your own personal expectations on that person, allowing that person to have their own expectations of what they want, even if it's against what you want. And when we do that, we win, we work.
There's some limitations to medication, and Narcan is only good when administered for about 15 minutes. Early stages, when first responders were administering Narcan, people were being put in a holding tank and dying because the opiates go back onto the receptors. So Narcan is a lifesaver, but if it's not administered with knowledge, it could cause death anyway. And Suboxone is good for 24 hours. So no, the Narcan is good for the first responders to have, but Suboxone is better. And for some particular reason, we don't use Suboxone in emergency situations. Don't know why that is. And I can't help somebody who's not conscious. There's a difference between sobriety and abstinence, and I have to address my patients as seeking abstinence and building skills to find sobriety. And I've heard lots of people say they're no longer addicted. I would say I am a recovering addict, a recovering alcoholic. There's no cure for this. Passages Malibu wants to let you believe that if you're by the ocean and you have some hot rocks put on your back, that you can be recovered. And you no longer have a disease. This right now is an incurable disease. The only thing we can do is not do it. So one of the things that happens in our addiction, and I do it in education, it's called an automatism. And you know what automatisms are. They're breathing, blinking, our heart beating. We don't think about those things. But what happens in addiction is we train ourselves to have automatic behaviors that you're familiar with are reading, swimming, and riding a bicycle. Once you learn those things, you can't unlearn them. If I took you out, threw you in the ocean, and I said, you can't swim, your other choice is to drown, what would you do if you knew how to swim? I do a really, people think it's funny, and it is funny because it's so simple, but I asked all the families in my family group, I said, we're all here addicted to reading. We can't read anymore. We're here for to seek sobriety from reading. There's some disease that we have, we can't do it. And I write on a piece of paper, do not read this, and everybody agrees, and I hold that sign up, and everybody just relapses. That's a behavior that you've trained yourself to have. Those are people, places, and things. Those are enhanced triggers, and they go beyond just people, places, and things, just like one day at a time goes beyond one day at a time. And so somebody like that, if you sit and you listen to them and you give them some dignity and you spend time with them, you have to work with people that have been detoxed. The brain's not right. I have to get them to detox first and foremost, and after they come out, if they can talk, we talk. And families always ask me after 14 days or 28 days of people in our recovery program, what do we do? What do we do when they come home? They have the 12 steps. We don't know what to do. You have like a list of things we're supposed to do. They act like the addict is an alien. It's your house. It's the first opportunity you have to talk to someone sober. Sit down and talk. We have a disease. That's all. And there's a fear there. And so we have to learn to embrace this disease. We have to learn to embrace ourselves and stop running from it. And a man in a recovery group that he said he wanted to do carpet work where we sit down and we do this Gestalt stuff. And he says, I want to sever my ties with my addict. And I gave him a little doll and looked like Quasimodo from it was a McDonald's Happy Meal toy. And I said, here's your addict. What do you want to do with him? He said, I want to throw him. So all the men in the men's group went outside in the woods and they cheered him on to throw his addict into the woods. And he tried. And he couldn't. And he fell on the ground in tears and he was shaking. And I went up to him and these guys were going, come on, man, do it. They thought he just wasn't going to follow through. And I said, what did you find out? And he said, I found out that it's a part of me. I can't throw it. I can't sever ties with my addict. I have to learn how to embrace it. We're not two people, guys. We're not this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. We're one person and we have a disease. And if we don't learn to embrace ourselves and we stop running from that disease, we're never going to get sober. We have to embrace it and accept it. It's a part of who we are. It doesn't define us as a person, but it does cause us an awful lot of conflict and pain. But when we get to that point, if we can get him to that point, we got a chance. He's got a chance. And that's the only thing we can do. I can't revive people from the dead, and I can't help somebody who doesn't think they have a problem.
It's about 4 o'clock, and when I started this, I made a promise to all who were involved that we were going to keep this according to time schedule, especially me. Especially me. I would like to thank everybody involved on this panel today for helping, because it was a cold call. These people came on their own time. This is the first time I've met them. We got together, we met at the group, and I can't thank all of them enough, and Venerable for having us today. If you have questions, I'll be around a little while, and these gentlemen and ladies hopefully will be around to answer your questions. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Drive safely and have a good evening.
I got a note from one member here. She wanted to mention a Facebook page called On the Buddha's Path, and they call it Compassion in Action. And there's a documentary there. One of the participants they interviewed was Reverend Kalin, who is involved in ex-offenders coming out of prison, and she's opened a bakery to provide jobs for these ex-offenders. So she's an awesome person. And also I wanted to touch on what Gus was saying about learning meditation. I know they teach meditation here at Fo-Wan-Shan, and we have the pamphlet from Buddhist Council of St. Louis, so I'm sure any group that's in here would be willing to teach meditation to anyone who's interested. A lot of groups, I know they have regular meditation sessions, but if there's a day time that doesn't work for you, just reach out to a group that's close by to you and see if they can, you can reach out to them and ask for a special meditation consultation. I'm sure that any group, like I say, would be welcome to do that. And I know one kind of close to Illinois, Cherokee Buddhist Temple, we have our flyer back there too, and maybe we might be the closest to Illinois, so you're welcome to come over there, right there in Cherokee Street. And Dr. Comstock, you wanted to say something?
The refreshment.
Oh, okay, okay. So, yes, thanks everyone again for coming. You're welcome to stay for refreshments. Thank you.